Mendelian genetics. We are going to use Gregor Mendel's laws. Those are the laws of segregation and independent assortment to discuss the role of meiosis and define problems, perhaps, or even ask questions about how these things occur and why things turn out the way that they do. So here comes our first law of dominance. So a dominant, or what was in termed a strong allele, will express itself over a recessive or weaker allele. If the dominant allele is present, allele will always have that trait expressed, which means it's going to be seen, like physically seen or physically expressed. We're going to get the protein for that dominant allele. So if brown hair is dominant over blonde hair, which we're going to represent with a lowercase b, lowercase b is going to represent blonde, and the uppercase b is going to represent brown hair. If you inherit a big B allele from one or both of your parents, you're going to have brown hair. All you need is one dominant allele to have the dominant trait or display the dominant trait. So whether you are have both dominant, homozygous dominant, or if you're heterozygous, you're going to have brown hair. In order to have the blonde hair, you're going to have both recessive genes. So recessive alleles are only going to be seen or expressed when that dominant allele is not present at all. That means both parents would have had to have given you little b for blonde hair. So speaking of things being expressed, let's talk about genotype or phenotype. Genotype, or the actual alleles, the actual genes, is what's actually inherited. So the genes that code for the flower, you remember each parent, gave the flower one. These are the actual genotypes. The phenotype, or the physical traits, are the characteristics. So purple flowers. So here in our purple flower situation, all right, in order to have purple flowers, you have to have the dominant alleles. So you have to have both dominant Fs or a dominant F and a lowercase f, and you would have the same phenotype, but two different genotypes. In the law of segregation, that's when chromosomes, they separate in meiosis. Each gamete, egg or sperm, will receive only one chromosome from that pair. So the chromosomes independently assort from each other. If a man has an allele for brown hair and blonde hair, he is heterozygous, right? But his sperm cells can contain either that big B or that little b. So each sperm is only going to get one allele. It's going to independently assort from the other chromosomes. So for example, if a man has both alleles for brown and blonde hair, but obviously he has brown hair because only the dominant one is expressed, 50% of the sperm that he's going to make are going to have the genetic coding for brown hair, and the other 50% could make a blonde-haired baby. The law of independent assortment, the chromosomes for one trait doesn't affect the assortment of the chromosome for that other trait. So this allows for really any combination of the maternal and the paternal chromosomes to be passed on these homologous chromosomes. It's kind of like lined up, and during metaphase, remember, they can cross over and then exchange like their little pieces of DNA. So really, we can really randomize all of our traits through meiosis and the law of independent assortment.